Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn about weldability of steels, and this is chapter 17 of our C-Sweep video lecture series. Friends, I have prepared this chapter in 3 parts and already uploaded the first 2 parts, and this is the third and last part of this chapter. So friends, in the first 2 parts we have learned about the general concept of weldability, means the definition of weldability and the significance. The second topic we have learned is categorization of weldability, how weldability can be categorized. The third point which we have learned is that the factors that affect weldability, what are the factors which affect the weldability. The fourth topic which we have learned was the carbon equivalent and its effect on weldability. Friends, carbon equivalent is a very important term, and I have explained right from the basics in the first part of this chapter. So what is carbon equivalent and how it is calculated and its effect on the weldability, I have explained in part 1. And the next topic which we have learned was weldability of carbon steels, stainless steel and other alloy steel. So these first 5 topics we had learned in the part 1 of this chapter. I'll put the link of part 1 in the description box below. And in part 2 we had learned HHZ hydrogen cracking in weld metal and solidification cracking. These 3 topics are very important from welding engineer or welding inspector point of view, not for exam only, but it is for for entire career. These 3 topics are very important. So I had explained these 3 topics in part 2 of this chapter, and I'll put the link of part 2 of this chapter in the description box itself below. Now in the present part, that is part 3, we will learn 2 topics. First one is the lamellar tearing and the second one is weld decay. These 2 topics are also very important, especially if we talk about lamellar tearing, and if you are working in oil and gas industry, then this lamellar tearing is very important, as well as this weld decay. So these 2 topics are also very important from a welding engineer or welding inspector point of view. So friends, let me introduce to you about myself. See, my name is Sandeep Anand and I am a mechanical engineer. Basically I am a mechanical engineer and I am having 14 years of work experience in the industry, in various industries, various sectors. So friends, my hobby is to share my knowledge, the knowledge which I have gained during my career. So this is my hobby, to share my knowledge. So I use to write blogs, articles and notes on my website, that is www.weldingandt.com, and share my knowledge through website. And the second mode through which I share my knowledge is the YouTube. So through YouTube I prepare various videos on various various certification courses and welding and NDT related topics. So by these 2 modes I used to share my knowledge to the freshers or experienced candidates or those who want some knowledge. So friends, before starting this topic, let me tell you that I have introduced a very new feature in my channel, and that is the join feature. Means you can join my channel. You will be able to see this join icon or this blue color join below this video. Below the like or dislike button, you will be able to see one join button also. So by clicking this join button you can join my channel, and the joining fees is very low. It starts from ₹89. So if you want to financially help me, or if you want to contribute for the betterment of the channel, you can join my channel. In addition to this financial support, you will get some additional benefits, like I'll prepare some exclusive members only videos. I will conduct live sessions or seminars, and I'll give you some basic knowledge, or I'll try to resolve your queries related to career, job and technical queries. And of course I will try to give your reply to your comments on priority basis. So these are the benefits which you can avail by joining my channel. If you don't join my channel, then also it is okay, no problem. you will be able to watch my videos regularly, except the exclusive member only videos. So friends, let's start the topic. Our first topic is lamellar tearing. What is lamellar tearing? See, lamellar tearing, this is a defect and it occurs in the parent metal but after welding. There is one more defect called as lamination. So lamination occurs, or lamination is also a plate defect, but lamination is a manufacturing defect, whereas the lamellar tearing occurs after welding, but it occurs in the parent metal itself. So lamellar tearing is basically a separation in the parent material. In the parent material, see what happens in the parent material during rolling, some metallic inclusion leaves or some metallic inclusion are there in the parent material. So after welding, see, during welding some residual stresses are generated. So at the residual stress area near the inclusion area, those residual stress pulls the material apart and there will be a separation in the parent material. So that is lamellar tearing. And see, there are three axes in a rolled plate rolled section. One will be the x direction. This is the x direction in which rolling is done, and the perpendicular to that will be known as the transverse direction, that is y direction. So this is y direction and this is x direction. The third one is known as through thickness or z direction. Through thickness or z direction, that is nothing but the thickness. See here, the thickness will be in z direction, the thickness will be in the z direction. So what happens, due to the stress generated by the welding, the stresses which are generated during the welding will produce some strain, and that strain will be in the thickness direction, in this through thickness direction. Hence, if there is any inclusion in the through thickness then due to that inclusion, the residual stress will pull that material and there's one separation in the parent material will occur. This is known as lamellar tearing. From the example you can see from this diagram, see here we have two parent metal 1 and parent metal 2. This is a T-joint and it has been welded. Parent metal 1 is welded with parent metal 2. Here in the blue color I have shown the welding. This is the welding, and in the red color I have shown the HAZ area, heat affected zone area. Now what happens, the lamellar tearing occurs in the parent metal near HAZ, not in the HAZ but near HAZ. Here you can see I have shown this remote lamellar tearing, underbed lamellar tearing. I have shown, see, remote lamellar tearing. First we'll see the underbed lamellar tearing. Underbed lamellar tearing is behind or underneath the HAZ area, near HAZ area. See, this is underbed. Now if that lamellar tearing is far from the HAZ area, then we will say that it is remote lamellar tearing. If it is at the root, then we'll say that it is a root lamellar tearing. At the root lamellar tearing. And if it is at the toe, then we can say that it is a toe lamellar tearing. So depending upon the orientation, we can name the lamellar tearing also. Now how lamellar tearing looks like? So lamellar tearing looks as a straight line in steps like, see, straight line, step like shape. Here you can say this is the step like shape. So lamellar tearing occurs in this manner, in through thickness direction, and this is parallel to the direction of rolling of the plate. It is always parallel to the direction of rolling of the plate, means this is the direction of rolling, then the lamellar tearing will occur in the parallel to the rolling direction. Now characteristics of lamellar tearing are some special characteristics associated with the lamellar tearing, that is, cracks occur only in the rolled products. See, lamellar tearing crack only occurs in the rolled product. As I told you earlier, it occurs in the rolled product in the rolling direction, parallel to the rolling direction. So what are rolled products? Say steel plates or plate. Any rolled plate can be a rolled product, or any rolled section will also be a rolled product. And it is most common in carbon manganese steel. Now cracks usually form close to but just outside the HZ area. As I told you earlier that these cracks are formed in parent metal and it is close to or outside the HZ area. Parent metal and outside the HZ area and close to HZ area. Now fourth one is the cracks tend to lie parallel to the surface of the material and the fusion boundary. So these cracks are parallel to the surface of the material in the rolling direction and fusion boundary also. So lamellar tearing occurs when the following two conditions exist at the same time. Two conditions should exist say at the same time, then only lamellar tearing will occur. First one is susceptible rolled plate. Means susceptible rolled plate means if the plate is having some impurity or if the plate is having some metallic inclusions, then only lamellar tearing will happen. And second one is the high stress. If some high stress must be generated during the welding, so those high stress will pull the material apart. So these two conditions should exist at the same time, then only lamellar tearing will occur. So high stresses act in the through thickness direction of the susceptible material known as the short transverse direction. Now susceptible rolled plate. What is a susceptible rolled plate? So in susceptible rolled plate the ductility will be low. Low ductility in the through thickness direction or short transverse direction. Short transverse direction or through thickness direction is the same. This is through thickness direction or short transverse direction. So in this short transverse direction there must be some low ductility, and that will result in susceptible rolled plate, which in turn can generate the lamellar tearing. Now low through thickness ductility in rolled product is caused by the presence of numerous non-metallic inclusions. I told earlier metallic inclusion, sorry, it is non-metallic inclusion. So due to the non-metallic inclusion only this low ductility will happen. And basically if we want to know what are the main non-metallic inclusion, that is manganese sulfides and silicates. So these are main non-metallic inclusions. So these two lines are there. Section thickness and size of the weld are the main influencing factors. Section thickness and size of the weld, these two are main influencing factors, because the higher thickness will be more susceptible because there will be more chance of inclusion, and size of the weld, more the size of the weld, more the residual stress generated, and if there will be more residual stress then it will pull the material apart. Lamellar tearing is more likely to occur in T, K and Y joints. Friends, in T, K and Y joints, lamellar tearing is more prone, or it will occur it will most likely to occur in T, K and Y joints, as well as full penetration. It means it is full penetration T, K and Y joints. I hope you understand the T, K, Y joint. See, this is your T joint. Now K will be some like there is a pipe and there will be two branches, then that this will be K joint, and then Y joint will be something like there will be, see here, one pipe and two branches if we are coming out, then this is a Y joint. Now how to avoid lamellar tearing? How we can avoid the lamellar tearing? So by reducing the magnitude of through thickness stress, by reducing the size of welding by following ways. So by reducing the size of welding, we can reduce the magnitude of the residual stresses, and which in turn will not avoid the lamellar tearing. So here we have one example. This is a T joint and beveling T joint. So here welding is more due to this beveling. The welding is more, and if there is our plate is susceptible, then lamellar tearing will occur here. So to avoid lamellar tearing, we will not make the bevel and will do the welding as it is. So in this way we can avoid this much of weld metal. We can avoid this much of weld metal, and so lamellar tearing can be avoided. See, same example in different photo. this T joint is there, and here beveling is there, T double bevel. So due to this double bevel, more welding is there, hence the laminar tearing will be more, and here the welding magnitude of residual stress will be less, so the laminar tearing may be less. Another thing is, if you have a susceptible plate, then you can add some buttering layer. You can apply some buttering layer above the surface of the plate where you have to make the joint. So applying buttering layer of weld metal to the surface of the plate. So what will happen? The strain will be shifted on the buttering layer, not in the susceptible plate, and due to which you can avoid the laminar tearing. So by second method is by reducing the susceptibility of rolled plate to laminar tearing. As I told you earlier, the susceptibility of rolled plate due to the presence of non-metallic inclusion. So by reducing that, you can achieve or you can avoid laminar tearing. So this can be achieved by ensuring that a rolled plate or section has good through thickness ductility. And how you will ensure that the rolled plate or section has good thickness ductility? That you can ensure by two things: by looking at the chemical composition. The steel must have low sulfur content, and the second one is by carrying out tensile testing. So by tensile testing in through thickness direction, you can ensure that. Now we have completed, and our next topic is weld decay. So friends, weld decay occurs basically in austenitic stainless steel. In stainless steel, and it is mostly occur in austenitic stainless steel only. And this occurs during service, not during the fabrication, but it occurs during service. Means after item has been fabricated and installed and the plant operation has started, then during the service the weld decay will occur. And how it occurs? It occurs because of the corrosion in the HZ region. See what happens: the weld metal remains intact and the parent metal remains intact, but the narrow area of HZ start corrosion. Corrosion starts in the narrow area of HZ. And how it starts? So as you know that stainless steel is having chromium. So what happens? The carbon in the stainless steel combines with the chromium and forms chromium carbide in the HZ region. Chromium carbide in the HZ region. And what happens? See, if this is the surface of the steel, so in steel at least 10.5% chromium is there. And why it is there? Because chromium reacts with oxygen and forms a thin layer of chromium oxide on the surface. So at the surface a thin layer of chromium oxide is there, and that chromium oxide prevents the stress from corrosion. Now the chromium combines with the carbon, and chromium combines with the carbon and forms chromium carbide. Hence the chromium atom will be depleted, and due to the depletion of chromium atom, here the chromium oxide layer will not be formed and corrosion will start. So the chromium carbide is unable to resist the corrosion. As I told you earlier that chromium oxide can resist the corrosion, but since the chromium has been combined with carbon and it has formed chromium carbide, this chromium carbide is unable to resist the corrosion, and hence corrosion will start in the HZ region. This happens in the HZ region only. HZ region is severely corroded, but surrounding areas, weld metal and parent, may not be affected. See, from the example you can see area depleted of chromium below 12.5%. So if the chromium level is below 12.5%, it will not form the layer of chromium oxide which prevents the corrosion. Now what happens during service? If the product is in the range of 650 to 850 degrees Celsius, then only chromium will combine with carbon and form chromium carbide. So if the product is exposed in this temperature, then only this happens, then only weld decay will happen. At this temperature, what happens? Carbon diffuses to the grain boundaries and combines with chromium to form chromium carbide. See, the carbon atom will diffuse and move to the grain boundary. Here this is the grain boundary, and here chromium, it will combine with the chromium, and chromium carbide will be formed. So this is also known as sensitization or intercrystalline corrosion or intergranular corrosion, IGC. So how you can avoid weld decay? So as of now you have understood that carbon is the main culprit. Since carbon is combining with the chromium, and hence chromium carbide is getting formed, due to which there is no more carbon which can form a layer of chromium oxide to prevent the corrosion. Hence we need to eliminate the carbon. So if we will eliminate the carbon, then the chromium can be saved. So by using low carbon stainless steel, we can do that. See, SS304L and 316L is low carbon stainless steel. L means low carbon. So this low carbon stainless steel can do that. Another method is by using stabilized grades of stainless steel. If I say stabilized grade, it is SS321 and SS347. So SS321 is, it contains titanium, and 347 contains niobium. So what happens? This niobium and titanium combines with the carbon. This niobium and titanium combines with the carbon, rather chromium. So chromium will not be depleted and chromium atom will remain saved. So if welding higher carbon grades, use low heat input welding and fewest weld runs possible. You can do one more thing. If you cannot avoid low carbon stainless steel grade, so use low heat input welding and fewest weld runs, as few as possible. So friends, this is how you can avoid weld decay. I hope you will have liked this video. Thank you very much.